You are listening to the Booktrospective Podcast, a podcast for all types of books. And even though we read all types of books across all different types of genres, we want to give a disclaimer. Many of our books and a lot of our content sometimes is intended for mature audiences. And we don't believe in censorship, but we do want our listeners to have the opportunity to decide if our episode or podcast is good for them. So, with that, let's get into the episode. Hey, it's Dominique.
And Keely.
And you are listening to Booktrospective. And we are at the new bookstore.
Woo-hoo!
Yay! Keely moved. Woo, 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 woo. And we were painting. It's so exciting. There's so much more room.
So much more room.
She has food next door.
Oh, yeah. I've already been twice in the past 2 weeks. So.
Super excited. We have new noises. Today we might have child noises because we're in transition, so that's fine. And we're in the front of the bookstore. So there might be car noises still. I mean, you guys have been listening. You know the routine. So whatever.
The only partying going on right now are children in the back room. So
yeah, you
may hear them, but
at least we're farther from the commons. That's true.
Yeah,
we won't have that like randomly every Thursday or whatever. So
and I've noticed because these windows are thicker, not as much sound comes in.
Yeah, that's nice. I'm excited. It's so exciting. She has so many ideas and plans, and I'm happy for her. So, well, otherwise, how was your week besides moving?
Uneventful. I mean, besides moving, uneventful. Yeah, not really much going on. What about you?
What have I done this week? Nothing. I'm still on Christmas break, so I'm like, I don't know what day of the week it is. I went to game night for New Year's Eve, which I know we already did our New Year's Day episode, but like real time when we're recording this, it was just New Year's. So I did that, and my house is kind of almost back in order. I got all my Christmas decorations put away. I like ripped those things down in 20 minutes. I'm so happy like to get that gone. So my house is on its way. My kids' playroom had like it's like a daycare. Everything's gone. Like Carter was like, the toys. Yeah, they're gone. I get sad about it because I'm like, my kids are growing up, but it's gotta go. So, yes. Other than that, a little stressed about wedding stuff, but I'm good. So, but anyway, so this week we are doing The Woman in Me by Britney Spears. Mm-hmm. So just prior to starting, so when were you born? 97. Okay, so I was born in 92. So what is your like thoughts on Britney or growing up? Were you a Britney fan?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I can't remember, I always forget what it's called, but I had like this little portable, almost like similar to like a portable DVD player.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Like, but it was something like a Next or I forget what it's called, but I'm gonna figure out what it is. But I had a handful of little DVD like CDs that went into it, and the majority of them
like the little things.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. And they come on like the key rings. You're talking about that?
No.
Oh, I know what I'm thinking of, but it's something different.
Yeah. I'll have to find it. I always struggle finding it, but yeah, no. The majority of the ones that I had were Britney Spears, and like it had just a tiny little screen that you could see like the music videos and stuff.
Oh,
yeah,
that's cool.
Yeah, I was totally a Britney fan growing up.
I'm thinking of those like they're like keychains, and it was like a little you could put like the single track.
I know what you're talking about.
I have no idea what that's called either, but that's what I was thinking of. But yeah, I definitely like Britney. I actually am a Christina Aguilera fan. It's funny because after reading this, my TikTok has been taken over by Christina because she performed New Year's Eve, and I think she's doing burlesque in Vegas right now, which I love burlesque. So I am like more of a Christina fan than Britney, but I do also like Britney a lot, and yeah.
Continue what you're saying.
No, so I like loved her growing up, and then obviously I do remember like the incident, which is the 2007 like head shaving, and then from there like pretty much like she like she says in the book, like she pretty much went ghost. So that's pretty much the end of like my interest in Britney. So I obviously, like, I'm on TikTok heavy. I listen to a lot of podcasts. When I'm not listening to true crime or books, it's like celebrity stuff. So I kind of was at like the tail end of the Free Britney movement, and people really like when they were starting to notice like something is not right. I definitely saw her videos, which I know she still posts now. They are a little strange, but like she's doing her thing. I'm happy for her. So yeah, definitely was interested in reading this. A lot of it had been spoiled by now for us, kind of like the big stuff. But I was interested in reading it just because, you know, she's such a big person for at least our childhood. So
yeah, so I figured out what it was. And actually it took me a lot less time than what it normally does because I always forget what it's called. But it was called A Video Now. That's what it looks like.
Oh, it like changed.
Oh my gosh.
As soon as you turn around, it like went to
there we go.
Oh no, I have not. I don't know what that is. I don't remember that at all. That's crazy.
So I had those. Mine was orange, but they had these. They were like mini, like CDs, DVD kind of.
That's cool.
It was only like music videos, but yeah,
that is cool. I definitely missed that wave.
I watched Toxic and all of those.
Love it.
Music videos on it. I loved it. Took it everywhere I went, but
yeah. Well, hey, that's cool. We had some cool stuff back then, even though it's not as cool as like today. So, I guess Keely can do the blurb.
Yes, and I forgot about that, so let me
pull
that up.
I know we're all like discombobulated.
Yeah,
I don't know what's going on.
It's different today. It locked me out. If it's gonna load up. All right, here we go. In June 2021, the whole world was listening as Britney Spears spoke in open court. The impact of sharing her voice, her truth, was undeniable, and it changed the course of her life and the lives of countless others. The Woman in Me reveals for the first time her incredible journey and the strength at the core of one of the greatest performers in pop music history. Written with remarkable candor and humor, Spears' groundbreaking book illuminates the enduring power of music and love and the importance of a woman telling her own story on her own terms at last.
Okay, so if you could describe this book in one word, what would you say?
I would say that it... Honestly, this is... And there's the child. I would say, I guess, eye-opening. I feel like I've said that before and don't necessarily want to reuse words, but I would say eye-opening.
I would say heartbreaking. It's just sad. And we'll get into why that is, but yeah, it's just heartbreaking. Like for her, I feel like she had heartbreak, and just for like fans, and just like a decent human being,
right?
That reads this book would feel that way. So just like a general summary, obviously this book is written by Britney Spears, narrated by Michelle Williams, I believe is her name. Yep. And it pretty much covers all of Britney's life up until like last year. And so she starts talking about her childhood. Britney was born December 2nd, 1981. She was born in Mississippi, but she was raised in Louisiana. So they're like a real like down south, southern Bible Belt, Bible thumping kind of family, even though like it didn't seem like they went to church a lot, but it's kind of like in the background. And she has, you know, her parents were married for most of her childhood. She had an older brother, and then she ends up having a little sister later down the road. And she starts out like in gymnastics, and then she ends up doing pageants, and from there she kind of gets into this stardom. And it seems like it's what she wanted to do. She did have moments where she wanted to have a normal life. She seemed to always kind of be torn between that. And, you know, we follow her from there into doing Mickey Mouse Club, which everyone knows that she did with Justin and Christina and Ryan Gosling. And from there, she is able to go on to become, you know, the Britney Spears that we knew her as, the, you know, superstar, the celebrity. She talks about her relationship. Her main three relationships that she discusses is her relationship with Justin, her relationship with Kevin Federline, and then it was her current relationship with, they call him Sam. I think it's Assam in the book, but we'll just say Sam, was her relationship that she was currently in when she was writing this book. And she talks about her relationship with her family and how that changes throughout the course of her lifetime. And then she does go into a very good detail about her conservatorship and what that looked like from her point of view, and her work life and her relationship with her boys. So, without saying too much else, that's pretty much the general summary of what this book is about. So, if you do not want to be spoiled, if you have not read it and you don't want to hear anything, this is your warning to pause and come back later. But we'll just go ahead and get into the book. So, I listened to the audiobook. I did hear the dedication this time. Okay, so we started this book out with it being dedicated to her boys, which I think is interesting. I'm going to jump around a little bit because her boys treat her like crap.
Yeah.
Which is not entirely their fault. They've only seen their mom really from the view of their grandparents and from their dad's view. It's really sad. There was something like last year, I think, where she had like yelled at her son, rightfully so, not like bad, but like he was being like a brat or something. Everybody's like coming down on her. And it's just like, and it's really what she says like throughout this whole book. Like she just never had the freedom of being a parent the way that anybody else could be a parent. But I mean, she loves her boys, and I'm glad, and she should. I mean, she will. She's a mom, but I hate how like they treat her. It sucks. Yeah. So, and so she like narrates a very small portion of the book, and so she basically, just like starts out with the book talking about how at home she was expected to be quiet as a child, except for when she was singing. So like that from pretty much day one was like her only worth was in her performance. Otherwise, she was meant to be seen and not heard. She grew up again in a very religious home. It was kind of Bible belty, southern. I think it's southern Louisiana. Like the town she grew up in was a small town. They did Civil War reenactments, like that whole thing. Like that sums everything up for me. Her dad. She starts right out with saying her dad was a bad drunk. Her parents. She believes her parents loved each other once, but it seemed like that was pretty much gone before she was even born. She has an older brother. His name is Brian. And she says growing up, she actually wanted to be a lawyer. But when she was 3, she actually started singing. Growing up, there was an incident. Her brother Brian wrecked his 4-wheeler and his whole body got crushed. He did live, but it was something that made her very close with him for a while. She even shared a bed with him for years to the point that like her mom said something to her about it. So I feel like Britney definitely has like codependency issues. And you can see that with that situation with her brother. Her dad did stop drinking for a while, and he had businesses and things like that when she was a kid, but as soon as he started drinking again, his businesses started failing, and he was very hard on Brian. He wanted him to be like very good in sports, and apparently like her grandpa had been very hard on her dad. Her dad's name is Jamie, as we all know in the world. Like her little sister is Jamie Lynn, so that whole thing. But her dad, Jamie, like apparently her grandpa was really hard on him, so he's just basically, carried that over to him being a parent as well. He also was pretty abusive to the mom. They basically just fought all the time, like argued, fight, just yell, scream all the time. And so he would leave for periods of time, and Brittany said she actually preferred it that way because then it was quiet. Outside of the fighting, her house was kind of like the cool house. That's where everybody went and hung out. Her mom smoked Virginia Slims, which is what Britney smokes now, which is what my mom smokes. I think it's so funny. And so she was like, her mom was just kind of like that cool Southern mom, smoking her Virginia Slims. So she says when she was 5, she was entered into a dance competition. She had been doing gymnastics up until that point. And I thought it was a pageant, but it was a dance competition. And that's when her mom really started taking her like all over and was like, okay, like you're bigger than this. We can do more. So when she was 8, she saw an ad for the Mickey Mouse Club. Her and her mom did, and they took her to Atlanta to audition. They really only wanted kids 10 and up, so she lied and said that she was 9 at the time. But her and actually Christina Aguilera were there. They both did not make it. I want to say they're probably about the same age. And they both were told that they were really talented, but they weren't old enough, basically. So whoever the people were suggested that they go to New York and start working there, and like re-audition at a later time. So at freaking 9 years old, Brittany starts waitressing at a seafood restaurant. Look, I'm confused. Like, I guess it doesn't like, she doesn't say like that they were like bad off, but I guess so. Like she kind of does, but kind of like, I don't know. But she's like waitressing at this seafood restaurant. Apparently it was like a really good restaurant. but she's 9.
Right.
I
I'm just saying, no matter how good they are as a server, I don't know that I would want a 9-year-old as my
I can't imagine
server.
her to be like, can you imagine like you have a family dinner and this 9-year-old comes and like, what can I get you guys? And
be like, am I being punked?
The adult?
Like,
can you give me the adult? Yeah, I don't know about
do you
that.
even know how to spell this?
Right, like what if I want calamari? Can you spell? Oh my gosh, so whatever. So she's working as a waitress in this seafood restaurant and she gets signed by an agency in New York. And shortly after that is when Jamie Lynn was born. And she tells us about how her mom basically had a hemorrhage after Jamie Lynn was born. She was at home fixing a costume that Britney was supposed to wear. And she just like randomly threw up on the costume that she was sewing, throws the costume away. And Britney's like, Mom, I need that. And then she's like, just starts gushing blood like all over the place. And so they rush her to the hospital. And she says how weird it is because it's almost like they like brushed past it. Like, oh, well, she had a hemorrhage, but like we fixed it and no big deal. And like it was a big deal to her, and it is a big deal. Like it's a big deal even today. Like so many people die in, like no one really should be dying in childbirth, especially now. But like people just die and like things like that go wrong all the time. So that's very scary. And so all she can really think about at this point in her life is how like she wants her family to be better. And the only time she really feels like she has any control of their situation is when she is singing. So she goes and auditions for the Mickey Mouse Club for a second time, and she does make it this time. And so like notable cast members, Christina came back, so she's there. She actually shares a dressing room with Christina Aguilera at this time. Ryan Gosling is there. This is where she meets Justin Timberlake. There's a few other people that are down in my notes as well, but those are like the big names that we know. And they are like really one big happy family. Like their parents, the kids, they're pretty much all, you know, working together. Her grandmother actually dies kind of tragically. She has like a heart attack or something in the pool. And they can't even afford for Britney and her mom to fly back home. So Justin's mom actually gives them the money so that they can fly home and go to her grandmother's funeral. She has a crush while she's there, not on Justin actually, on Tony Luca, which I have no idea who that is. Never had heard of him. Had to look him up. Still don't know who the man is. I wouldn't know that man if he was walking down the street. I don't know who Tony Luca is, but she had a crush on him. And she does that show for about a year and a half. And unlike everyone else who is planning to like launch their whole celebrity career and acting career or singing or whatever they're getting ready to do, she decides to go home because she really just wanted a normal life at this point. She's like 13 years old. Her mom lets her drink, she calls them daiquiris, but they go to Biloxi. They were drinking daiquiris. They drank, what else? White Russians?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think like.
That was very concerning.
She's waitressing at 9. I mean, hey, she's an adult. I don't know. So, yeah. So she's drinking with her, and she's drinking with her mom. I don't know. That's okay. And she talks about how, like, so Jamie Lynn's like 2 or whatever, and they literally treat her like a little doll. Like, she's made like a little bit of money. She bought her like this little red, is it a Corvette? Something like a Power Wheel, and like how she would drive it around. And like Jamie Lynn literally was a princess. And she also says she starts smoking and driving at 13. So what is it? It's like 94. And so one time she's like driving with her mom, and this is when her mom finds out that she's smoking because her mom's in the car and she's like, "Do I smell smoke?" So her mom, her mom's in the passenger side, Brittany's driving. Her mom grabs her hand and is like trying to smell for smoke. Meanwhile, like she loses control of the car. She crashes. They are actually fine, but she does crash the car. And then her mom like kind of starts laying into her about the smoking thing, but then because of the crash, she kind of forgets all about the smoking thing, and she says she never brought up the smoking again. So like, thank God that they crashed, I guess, and lived. That solved all the problems. She also talks about how she had like this bad friend, my bad friend. Like you're the bad friend, Brittany. You're 13.
Right.
Brittany does not have a lot of self-awareness. I will say that. So I'm like, I think she's just your friend. I think you're both bad. It's like 13. Right. I love that movie, but it's like it's not like 13 because Brittany, you are Nikki Reed. you're not innocent. But she basically had like a bad friend who like was hooking up with guys. I guess that was the difference. Like that was the line. So she's like to that age where she's starting to like all of her brother's friends. And she actually does lose her virginity to her brother's best friend in the 9th grade. And the guy was 17. So I mean, I don't know, like Romeo and Juliet laws. I don't know if she was 14 at that time. I don't know. Whatever. Not my business. So she starts skipping school with him for like a period of time. Like she would leave school at 1 o'clock and then like come back and ride the bus home. No one ever knew for like months and months until like they end up calling home and her mom's like, how'd you do it? And so she's like, this is what I did. Brian, her brother, starts to hate his friend, and he ends up like telling on her because she keeps trying to sneak out of the house too because of the age difference and because she's sneaking around. So like, I mean, he's right. Around this time, she does get introduced to who's going to become her lawyer. His name is Larry Rudolph, and he is the one who suggests that she records a demo album. This is also around the time that NSYNC is being formed, and she does get an offer to join a girl group, but her and her mom talk it out, and they think that the solo route is best. So this is basically how the Britney Spears is born at this time. So she talks about recording Baby One More Time, and she says she purposely stayed up late the night before because she wanted like to have a gravelly, like mature sound in her voice, and she wanted to make sure that her music was more R&B and less pop. She says the original idea for the video was horrible. Was to like for her to be in space, dressed what she said was like Power Rangers. So she had the idea for them to dress like they were at the school in the schoolgirl outfits. And she said she had to go around and promote that album, and she really liked that at that time nobody really knew who she was. So she didn't like promoting her album. Like it's weird to go up to a stranger like, here, listen to my CD or like my track. So she didn't like pushing her music to strangers, and she's only 16 at this time. So January 12th of 1999, the album was released. She sold over 10 million albums, or 10 million singles or albums. I don't know. She sold over 10 million. And she debuted at #1 and was the first woman to have a single and an album both debut at #1. So like she took off with a bang.
Killed it.
Yes. And she starts touring with NSYNC, which we know that's where Justin is. So she said that this part is so funny to me when she talks about how NSYNC tried to be cool with the rappers, and literally she talks about, I want to say it's JC, and he saw Genuine and was like, oh yeah, for shiz, like kill me now, I'm dying.
That was so cringy.
You said that to Genuine, like please shoot me. I would be so unwell, so embarrassed. I wouldn't even bring that story up again. I would never tell anybody.
I got secondhand embarrassment, like
so bad.
Oh my gosh.
So she basically is like, they wanted to be cool so bad. And she starts to notice the difference in the media, especially like how Justin gets treated versus how she gets treated. Because of course they start talking about like her clothes and like, you know, it's the same thing even now. Like I think about Cardi B is a perfect example of this. Cardi B does not necessarily market her music to like young girls. She is an adult. She's doing adult things. You as a parent are like in control of the music. So like they're basically like telling Britney like, you know, young girls look up to you, and she's like, I'm not their parent. Like I
didn't sign up for them to.
Yeah. And she's 16. Like she's not like swinging from a pole or anything.
Right.
Like, but whatever her and her parents decide, like she's not like, I feel like celebrities do have like a job to be role models in some sort, but at the same time, like that doesn't stop a parent from parenting. Like if you feel like
monitoring and like restricting some content that they don't deem appropriate for their child.
Like it's completely up to you. Like, and every parent's different. That's why you have the freedom to choose and make those choices. So, but of course, like Justin, like he can do whatever he wants, like right or wrong. He's a man. During this time, she meets Madonna. Like they become friends. She meets Mariah Carey, and she tells her. I used to tell people that Mariah Carey was my cousin growing up because we have the same last name. We are not related that I know of. Maybe we are. But anyways, she says how she met Mariah Carey, and she like went to her dressing room, and she's like, "Oh, can I take a picture with you?" And she's like, "Oh, you gotta get my good side. You gotta get my good side, darling." And she has like basically like what are ring lights now. That's what Mariah Carey had, and she like had never seen those before, and like she just thinks about like she loved Mariah, but she's like thinking about how like she had a good side, and like how she had all like she opened the door and there's like a glow, and I'm like that is so Mariah, like it just is. And so she talks about how she goes on the MTV Awards and she performed Oops, I Did It Again. And afterwards, they make her watch they had basically interviewed parents or like whoever, and they sit here and make her watch videos of the criticism of her outfit, and that's when they were like, "You're corrupting kids," and that's when she says like, "I'm not the parent, like I'm literally just being me." So because of all this criticism, she starts taking Prozac to really like deal with the stress and the anxiety and the criticism. She also says when Oops came out, she was able to buy her mom a house. And at some point between like now and when she was 9, her parents do finally like they get a divorce. And so she buys her mom a house. She settles all her dad's debts because she really just wanted to give both her parents like a clean slate at life. In 2001, she goes to do the halftime show. She's there with NSYNC, Nelly, Mary J. Blige, and I believe Aerosmith. And so she does that. She talks about also doing Slave for You, which is the performance with the snake, which I would never do. But she's like, basically it was her and like the snake person, Wrangler, was like this tiny girl. So she's like this, like both these like 2 small girls like handling the snake. And she really didn't want to do it. I don't blame her because I would have been like, can I get a fake one? I'm not doing any animal activities. But so she talks about that. Also around this time, she does, she acts in the movie Crossroads by Shonda Rhimes. Love Shonda Rhimes. That she has been around. Shonda's been around for a long time. Like Shonda blew up with Scandal and Grey's Anatomy, but she did Crossroads. She did Princess Diaries. Yeah, she's amazing. Anyways, back to the story. So she does Crossroads, and like I don't think I've ever watched Crossroads, like sat down and watched it, but essentially she's like playing a good girl, and she was method acting, but she like took it to the extreme. Like she did not know how to turn off her acting. And so when she was off camera, like she was still in her role, and she's like, Justin and her friends were acting like while she's acting different. Also, she started dating Justin at this time. And she really talks about how she hated acting because she basically says like for months she was stuck in that role until she goes to like a convenience store with her friend. She walks in the store and all of a sudden it's like a switch turned off for her, and she's like, have I been doing that for months? Like she just could not turn it off. Like she didn't know what to do. So she like basically she like hates acting. And she said she auditioned for The Notebook, and it was between her and Rachel McAdams. And she said that she turned it down, which, thank God. I cannot physically in my mind imagine. First of all, The Notebook is amazing. Also, shout out to Rachel McAdams and Ryan Gosling. They did secretly date after that. And God, wrong time, perfect couple. Wish them all the best. But I cannot even imagine Britney Spears acting in that. Maybe I should have watched Crossroads because I need to see what her acting performance was like. Because I mean, Rachel McAdams is like, what's the goat? I just can't. I cannot. Thank you, Britney, for bowing out. I literally put, thank God it wasn't her. I love The Notebook. I cannot imagine Britney Spears. As Allie
because they executed it like perfectly.
They hated. We're taking a brief tangent. They hated each other. Do you know this?
I
They
heard.
literally could not. The scene when they're in the boat, when it's like their younger characters, they're not in the boat together. Like they hated each other so bad. And then like it came to the point where like the director was like made them go in a room and they just yelled at each other. And then after that is when they like secretly started dating. Like yeah, that's what all that tension was about. It's the love. It's the love. I mean, I know Ryan's like with what's her name now? I can't think of it, but I don't know. The Notebook's amazing. Anyways, back to the story again. So she talks about also in 2001, that's when her and Justin wore like the matching jean jackets jean outfits that everyone knows and loves. She says it was Justin's idea to wear like denim, but she's like really embraced like that Southern like mom mentality. She's like, oh, like we should match, like it's Sage or something. And she really just talks about like how in love like she was with Justin. They were living together. She actually knew that he cheated on her. He cheated on her a few times, I believe. He cheated on her when they were together for a year. He went to London on tour. And then he also cheated on her at one time in Vegas. And it was one of her backup dancers, who she says is popular now. I tried to look it up to see if like a quick Google search would tell me who it was. It did not. She didn't disclose their name because she's like, they're popular. I don't want to, like, she was being nice. That was nice of her. And so she says that she only cheated back once with Wade Robson. Also don't know who that is. And she said they only made out. So shout out to you, Wade. But she basically says like she was loyal to him for years and she let the rumors go, whatever, whether she knew they were true or not. She loved Justin. So she was down. That was her man and she was sticking by him. So she does talk, which this has been a spoiler, that she does get pregnant by Justin. She was surprised, but she wasn't upset because she loved him so much, but he did not want to have a child. And so they agreed to get an abortion, and he didn't even want her to go like to a facility and do it because he didn't want anybody to possibly find out. So she basically has to do the at-home pill abortion. She says she laid in the bathroom for hours on the floor in so much miserable pain. All she wanted to do was go to the doctor, but she couldn't. And so the only person who even knew besides Justin was Felicia, who's like her assistant. And so she laid on the bathroom floor for hours. She was crying. Justin came in at one point in time and laid with her and played his guitar.
I'm just saying that would
have
annoyed me. Like I would have been mad.
I probably would have like I would have given you a swirly. Like I'm
in pain and you come sing. Like seriously?
I don't want to hear you right now. I don't
even want to see you.
First of all, at this point in time, Justin has like the noodly head. He has ramen noodle hair. I do not want to see that. I don't want to see it. Go lay your noodles somewhere else. So that's pretty terrible. So she also says after this point that she really just should have seen the breakup coming, but she didn't. So at this point in time, Justin decides he's going solo, and he doesn't just leave NSYNC behind, he's leaving her behind. So he starts to become very standoffish with her, and he pretty much used their breakup as ammunition for his record. And he ended it by text, and this made me think of Katy Perry and Russell Brand. Have you ever seen the TikToks or like the videos of her? So Katy Perry was married to Russell Brand, and literally she was supposed to go on like it was the night of a performance, and he texted her and ended their marriage. And she like lays in her chair like to get ready for hours, and she's just like crying. They're like, we can cancel it, and like literally she's like under the stage, like they're like getting ready to put her on the lift, and she literally is like bawling, like they're like dragging her around, getting her ready, and then like she just like. And then she just goes up and does her performance, and that's all I could think about. You'll have to see the video. That's all I could think about when you're in a relationship with someone for years and you text me and say it's over. Like, okay, yeah. So that's how he ended it. She said obviously she was devastated. She was on tour, but she had to finish her tour. She really considered quitting altogether, and. During this time also, she starts to talk about, she talks about Jamie Lynn, which is her younger sister, and she basically said like Jamie Lynn was kind of a total bitch at this point in time. Like she's probably about a teenager now, and she was really like entitled. But again, like when Jamie Lynn was born, they were finally starting to have money, and she's basically been treated like a princess her whole life. So everything's kind of like crappy for her right now. She doesn't really have anyone. Justin's leaving her behind. She says to try to get over it, like the first big thing that she did was go to a party thrown by Donatella Versace. And she like just tries to go and like, you know, pull herself together. Around that time, Justin releases Cry Me a River about her, and it pretty much makes her out to be the bad guy. And so everywhere that she goes, like she starts getting booed everywhere. Justin pretty much made her out to like a cheating slut and like a liar. And like I don't remember this, but like I need to like I'll have to look myself because what did you accuse her of doing?
Right.
And saying like she's a hypocrite. And people start saying she's a hypocrite because they're saying like, oh, you were having sex, and again like teens idolize you. At this point in time, she is a grown woman, obviously in a relationship. You guys know she's in. What did you think her and Justin were doing?
Right.
Back massages? I don't know. Like obviously she's probably having sex with this man. And they basically like had put her on this pedestal at this like virginal figure. She never asked for that. She never pretended to be that. But she actually says like she was actually glad that like she wasn't looked at as like this virginal figure anymore because like she doesn't want that persona. It's a lot of pressure on her. So she goes on Oprah, and Oprah tells her like your sexuality is no one else's business. Like what you are, and it's not like it is no one else's business what she is doing. She is a grown woman, and she has the freedom to like every regular person on the street. She goes out into like the desert with a friend who was dating one of Justin's friends and also had broken up at that time, and she kind of like reacquaints with God at this. It made me think, what do they call that when they do like? What do they call that with like the Native American? They like do I can't think of. They like smoke this stuff and like I cannot think of what it's called. I'm assuming that's what she did. It's kind of probably like what
kind of like a spiritual retreat, kind of.
Yeah, I'm thinking like MGK and Megan when they like drank each other's blood. They're extreme.
Yeah.
I don't think that that's what happened, but one of those kind of things. So Justin, basically, he keeps sleeping around. So she's like, you know what, forget it. Like, I'm going to start dating, whatever. And she gets with Colin Farrell. Oh my God. The girls go feral for Colin Farrell. Like, I was like, I don't blame you. And literally, Colin Farrell was everything that she needed for 2 weeks. And that was all. Colin Farrell, another side tangent. I listened to an episode, like a Behind the Blinds episode of him. And like, he's exactly what you think. He's literally like a sex-driven bad boy. And that's perfect. Be who you are. So they hooked up for like 2 weeks. It was everything that she needed it to be and more. So he was great to her, and it ended, and there's no bad feelings there. I love that for her. So she starts to develop social anxiety. It's really a struggle and a fear for her to be social at this point. The media is like so nice to Justin and even Christina at this time, but not to Britney, and or at least that's how she's perceiving it. So she basically becomes a recluse at this point. She's pretty secluded in her apartment. She's like in NoHo in New York. And during this time, Madonna does try to mentor her and like help her get through the hard time that she's having. And this is when they get pretty close and they do the VMAs and they do the Madonna kiss, which again, like there's not too much to say on that, but just an iconic moment. Mm-hmm. Of course, there was so much talk about it. She basically was just like, they hadn't practiced it for real. They like had like pretended to do it. And so she was like, I'm just going to do it. And I'm not mad at you, Britney. Go ahead. Now you said you did it and it's in your books. She also does like a song and like a video shoot with Madonna. And she just really kind of admires how Madonna like is Madonna. Like she is who we think she is. Like basically like something happened with Madonna's like outfit. She had to wait hours for them to get it repaired because she's like, what is taking so long? And just like anytime that like anything inconvenienced Madonna, like she took control and she's like, this is her video shoot. Like I'm the boss. And Britney has never had that. Like even though as big as Britney Spears was, like this, it was never the Britney show like it is for other celebrities.
And she's never, prior to that, had anybody in her life who, any woman in her life who has been the take charge and I think that is something that she really needed.
Yeah, to see like even her, like she talks about her mom, not like her mom and her dad fall all the time, but her mom is just like a pushover kind of like she just like allows it to happen and like doesn't fight back, and so she's never seen like a woman stand for herself, and she needed to see that. So she does a late night MTV show for her In the Zone album, which that's the album that Toxic is on. And after she does that, she goes home and 3 random men and her dad like show up and start questioning her. And so she's forced to go on Diane Sawyer and talk about Justin. There's no prep. She doesn't get the questions. She has no idea what they're going to ask. And like, it's like horrible. Like it's just all these uncomfortable questions. It's just a terrible interview. And she's pretty much like embarrassed again. So she decides to go home with her mom for Christmas. And her mom complains about her and her friends like being loud and annoying. So she's like, you know what? Like I'm an adult. I'm Britney Spears. I have money. So she's like, we're going to go to Vegas. So they go to Vegas. She meets up with Paris Hilton. She gets drunk. She's just cutting loose. And she hooks up with a friend. And they end up getting married like drunkenly. And his name is Jason Alexander. Also, I don't really know who that is. But so her parents show up the next day pissed and like immediately get it annulled. And she's like she didn't really know what the big deal was. She was like, I mean, I get it. Like we'll get it annulled. But they were like so mad. And she said like she wonders why it was such a threat to them. And she basically realized now it's like anytime anybody outside of them got close to her, it was like their control was slipping. And that's why they were so upset. And like at this point in time, Britney is financially supporting her entire family. But so she goes back on tour and she actually injures her knee. And around this time, that's when she meets Kevin. We know Kevin Federline was a backup dancer. And she likes him because like he would hold her. He was really intimate to her. He knew what he was doing. He played the game very well. That's basically what it was. But she says Kevin made her feel alive, feel safe, and feel sexy. They had a very playful relationship in the beginning. She actually did not know that he had a child and one on the way until like the other child gets here. But she also, at this point in time, she has no friends. So like it's her, Kevin, and like nothing else. Like she doesn't have anyone to confide in. So she asked him to go back on tour with her after her knee heals. And then this pissed me off so bad. This will piss. I would eat a jean jacket before I ever do. She proposes to him. Britney, stand up. You are Britney Spears.
Right.
Oh my God. Any woman listening to this, please just know. Don't you ever propose to a man. Please. Please. I literally would rather cut each individual blade of grass with scissors, with those child safety scissors that they give you at school, before I ever did that. Oh my gosh. So he says no, so that he can turn around and then like propose to her. And I literally put vomit. Oh my God. I'm so like, the entire problem with this entire life story is that Britney never had any friends. If Britney called me and was like, hey girl, so I proposed to Kevin, I'm sorry. I'm going to knock your head between the washer and dryer. You did what? Anyways, so they get engaged. Yay. So June 2004, she falls and injures her knee again, and so her tour gets canceled, which she's actually happy about. Like Britney is like not big on her career at this point, but this time she gets put on Vicodin for her pain. No one likes her relationship, which, okay, I agree with everyone at this point. So no one likes Kevin. No one likes the relationship. So they decide, they do a little private ceremony. She does have a prenup. And then like this, if you've seen the pictures, they have like these velour track suits that they wear. Yay. If it was anybody else, I would be happy for them. But around this time, she starts cutting people off and like really leaning into no, which this I support. I like the no. So she's really starting to have her own freedom. She feels like I'm a wife now. Like I have my family that I've created. I don't have to like do what everyone wants of me anymore. So she ends up getting pregnant with her first son. And she says the only good things about pregnant were that she liked food and she liked having sex. Otherwise, she was a horribly mean person. And she said her sister came to her and told her like something bad happened on Zoe 101. That's when Jamie Lynn was on Zoe 101. And she finds out later that Jamie was actually either lying or embellished it, but she goes on Zoe 101 and like attacks her sister's co-star like while she's pregnant because she's got all these hormones like, you know, going off. But she has her son. This is Sean Preston, and she ends up getting pregnant 3 months later, which is, whew, that's quick. But she was sad and lonely, but she also was happy because she did want her kids to be like close in age and have that bond. But she started talking about how the paparazzi just hounded her. Like they just would not let up. Like think not as bad as Princess Diana, but like on that level, like just would not. And everything she did, everyone found reasons to like call her an unfit mother. And I mean, I can like that just gets to a person. Like, dang, I just cannot imagine. Like it's just hard. Like just to like you can try to be strong. I feel like I'm a strong person, but even me, like someone tells, like when you hear the same thing over and over again, like that just eats away at you. Mm-hmm. So around this time, Kevin, of course, wants to become a celebrity. Yay. And he does the same thing that Justin does, and he starts to separate himself from Britney, even though you are literally riding her coattails, using her money, in her fame, in her name, to do all these things for yourself, you loser. Okay. So, people basically are start telling Britney, like, he's gonna leave you just like he did the first baby mama. And she's like, no. Like, and she says, I was in denial. He literally moves to New York. She's in LA. She goes to see him. He won't see her. You won't see me on my money. I know this is Britney money. She don't say this. Kevin has no money. What money does Kevin Federline have? He cannot possibly. He has security. You can't afford security, sir. And that's what she says. She says it's literally the security guards telling her that she can't come in are security guards that have worked for her. The audacity.
I was talking to my mom about the memoir last night, and talking to my mom and my sister. My sister was like, "Who is Kevin Federline?"
Exactly.
And my mom was like, "Literally,
no one.
Britney Spears made him who he is.
Her backup dancer that she turned into something for a short amount of time.
The only reason he is who he is because provided by Britney.
Yeah. Like, your story will never be told without Britney Spears in it.
Right.
You don't have a standalone chapter. You do not. The audacity! So, she basically says, like, he started feeling himself. Like, he came home one time and was like, oh, I was at a party with Lindsay and Justin. Like, Lindsay Lohan and Justin Timberlake. First of all, why the hell do I care that you're at a party with Justin Timberlake? And number two, she's like, I've literally partied with him for years. Wow. Kudos. Like, good job. So what? And she said he started taking himself so serious. She says he really thought he was a rapper. Bless his heart. Cold shot. I cannot. She says it's just like so sweet. You can hear Ray like, bless his heart. At this point in time, she is still pregnant. She tries to go on his set, and again, like security will not let her in. So she has her second son. His name is Jaden James, I believe. And this time, like, she definitely has postpartum depression. And she doesn't call it that at this point. I just said it was that. Later on, she recognizes that that's what it is. So they buy a house. They live next door to Mel Gibson and Olivia Newton-John. May she rest in peace. And she says, like, for herself, she became very overbearing and protective. She wouldn't even let her mom hold Jaden for like the first 2 months of his life. And then at that point in time, no more than 5 minutes. Which, I mean, looking back on things, I don't really blame you, but you know. So she does try to get back in the studio after having him. At this point in time, she dyes her hair black. Or no, when she was pregnant, she dyed her hair black. And then she did purple. And so, like, she has to strip her hair at this point. So it's not in a very good condition. And that's just, put a pin in that. So her lawyer is telling her around this time that she should file for divorce before Kevin. But that was horrible advice, because then that caused her to be responsible for all of Kevin's legal bills, because he don't have no money. The man that's telling security not to let you in on your dime don't got no money. So then when y'all went to court, you became responsible. So she's really torn, because like the public started making jokes about Kevin, as they should. And she's very uncomfortable. Like, she went on some show and like they were out there like talking about Kevin, and she like, it makes her very uncomfortable. She feels like in hindsight with the industry, like basically Kevin and Justin really knew how to play the game and she didn't. And that's true. And so she really loses her trust in like everyone around this time. She spends this next chapter talking a lot about Paris Hilton. This is when she really started to become close with Paris. Paris really encouraged her to hang out. And this is kind of her party stage. And she says it wasn't as wild as everyone made it. Like, she says that she wasn't doing hard drugs. At the most, she says she was like drinking. She said she would go out with Paris and Lindsay occasionally, and all they did was get drunk because she didn't even like drugs. She would have her mom babysit, but then when she would come home, her mom would literally berate her. Which, lady, I got a babysitter. That's you. Also, I pay your bills.
Right.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. And she said, like, everyone was always so hard on her. She had no freedom and no security. And she really said, like, she says, I became weird. I started to be weird. So Kevin, around this time, takes the boys from her and would not let her see them, and started to make her out to be this bad mom. And she just, like, could not believe that it was happening. Especially because, like, up until that point, she was the parent. He was gone. So in 2007, she said, I was tired of being chased by paparazzi. Kevin had took her kids. Her aunt dies. And so, like, she just is like, you know what? I snapped. And so that's when she shaves her head. Which also her hair had like been horribly ruined. So she's like, you know what? I went to a place. The paparazzi wanted something, so I gave them something. I shaved my head. And she said after that, everyone thought she was ugly and wouldn't talk to her, even her mom. She's like, her mom literally would like not look at her. And she said, I didn't care about anything. She said, I miss my boys. She said, I miss napping with them and like smelling their little sweet faces and their hair. And like, as a mom, like, oh, I can relate. She said that was like her favorite thing. And so she said, I just became very angry.
And I mean, not only that, but her babies were still babies.
Babies. And like, you literally just ripped them from her. I can't imagine. So she basically like is just lost. Like, she just keeps losing it. She doesn't have her kids. She has to leave her home that she had like spent all this money and effort into building because of the divorce. Her cousin tries to take her to see Kevin at one point in time, and they get followed and hounded by the paparazzi. And they just keep asking her, like, Britney, are you okay? You don't look okay.
What do you think?
Like, so she gets out and, like, hits the paparazzi's car with an umbrella. It makes me think of Pamela Anderson when she, like, they kind of did that after she had, like, went to the hospital and she had a miscarriage, I believe. I had watched, like, the reenactment thing on Hulu, and I remember there's, like, a scene like that. So basically that. And so she is told around this time that she needs to go to rehab. And she's like, I don't have substance abuse issues. Like, I have emotional issues. She's like, I have issues, but they're not substance abuse. Mm-hmm. But they want her to go to rehab, and her father comes and basically tells her, like, he comes to visit her at rehab. He sits 3 picnic tables away, she says, and tells her she's a disgrace. Jamie, I pay your bills, sir. Okay. So at this point in time, she goes to rehab though, because basically she thinks like that'll help her with the kids. So she goes and she is awarded temporary 50-50 custody after rehab. And so after coming out of rehab, they also want her to perform at the VMAs. And she does it. It's a horrible performance. She feels terrible. She runs into Justin. Of course, he's having the night of his life. And like everything about it just sucks. And then like Sarah Silverman comes on after that and like roasts her. And she's like backstage crying. She did not because of Sarah Silverman. She already was backstage crying. But like, if this...
It doesn't help.
Yeah, it was literally the cherry on top. Like, it sucks. And so after this, her management quits. And then she has like a bodyguard that used to like work for her testify against her in court for the custody battle. So nobody is on her side whatsoever. She does have a visit with her boys and she kind of loses it. So the boys come and visit her and she takes, I want to say she takes Preston out first to the car. And then she like starts to panic because she's like, what if I never see him again? Like, what if Kevin, like, because Kevin took him and like, what if I don't? So she locks herself in the bathroom with Jaden. And like her friend's there and she's like, okay, like he's going to give you time, like just take some time. But instead of giving her time, they call SWAT and they come and like kick the door down. They take Britney away on a gurney. They take her to the hospital, put her on a 72-hour hold. And she has to go back to court and basically gets even less visitation time now because of this whole incident. Around this time, she also learns from a tabloid that her sister, who is 16, is pregnant. So no one even tells her. Her own sister doesn't tell her. Her family doesn't tell her. She learns in a tabloid that Jamie Lynn is pregnant. So in January 2008, she is hospitalized. She's basically been taking a lot of Adderall. And around this time, she also was dating a paparazzi person. She did not know he was married. He was. And she just has really like, she was really lost. So she didn't really feel out of control. She was just miserably sad. As her relationship with this guy got more serious, her family tried to get closer with her because, again, they were losing their control. Her mom does ask her at one point to come to the house. And so she agrees and she brings the guy with her. And when they come, and then all of a sudden there's helicopters and there's SWAT. And I'm like, how are these people getting the SWAT team? Like, what is this? Like, is this real SWAT or fake? Like, I don't understand. But they're like, so they're in like Louisiana. So around this time, her dad becomes friends with Louise Lou Taylor, which is who becomes like the head of the conservatorship. So this is where things really start to get bad. And so Lou Taylor was the head of the conservatorship. She finds out that her father has been paying himself a bigger salary than he was even paying Britney. And they basically go and request a conservatorship. So they set up two conservatorships, one of person and one of estate, and her dad gets placed at the head of both of those. Because he's the head of the conservatorship over person, he can designate like what car she drives, where she lives, every little thing that she does. She tried to take him to court, and basically they told her in court that she was demented and that she had no say. So she, at this point, is forced to pay an attorney that she has no control over. She can't fire this attorney, can't replace them, but she's forced to pay $500,000 a year for an attorney that she cannot fire for her conservatorship. And the crazy thing about it is that before they set this whole thing into motion, her mom had been there with her for like 2 nights before for a sleepover. And of course, when it all went down, her mom's like, oh, I don't know. Like, I don't know. But she did. Like, her mom plays the I don't know thing, but she does. Like, you definitely know. And it's funny because right before this whole conservatorship went into place, her dad was literally on the brink of going bankrupt again. And now he's over this conservatorship making all this money.
So, becoming a multimillionaire.
Multimillionaire off of his daughter's back. So around this time, her mom also writes a memoir and basically banks off of the fact that her kids are failures. Goes on all these talk shows and says how terrible her kids are. And then a few weeks after the conservatorship is started, she is put back to work. So they send her like to work on TV shows. She couldn't drive. Her boyfriend was sent away, which, I mean, he kind of sucked, but like, you know, whatever. And she thinks it's funny because she literally, like, Britney was like very diligent about her finances. She had a bowl of receipts that she didn't even trust her like financial people to do. And she's like, I have this bowl of receipts. Like, isn't this proof that I was of clear mind? But no, that's not good enough. Her dad comes in her office, pushes her bowl of receipts to the side, and like sets himself up and tells her that he calls the shots now. He says, I'm Britney Spears now. Oh, okay. So she says, like, if she even wanted to date anyone, they would like run full background checks. they did this like weird thing about sexual history where they had to like have conversations and disclose it. It was very embarrassing for like everyone involved. So she's basically like, you know what? I'm just going to play along because like this cannot last forever. So she's like, I'm just going to play along so I can see my boys and so they let me out of this. She's literally paying, not only is she paying for her dad and her sister and their mom stuff, she's paying Kevin's bills to appease him so she can see her kids. She says during this time, her dad became a multimillionaire from the conservatorship. She also gets sued from a paparazzi because she ran over his foot when she was trying to get away from them. Her dad starts telling her how fat she looked all the time, and she pretty much loses any passion that she has for performing. Mind you that this conservatorship is going to end up going on for 13 years. That is absolutely insane. So her parents do end up getting back together around 2010. So they were split up for about 8 years, and they end up getting back together after this conservatorship is established. Yeah, because there's money flowing in.
Right.
Her dad is over her entire diet. She basically can eat like chicken and broccoli. She could even have dessert. She has to go back to recording, and she gets offered, quote unquote, offered, voluntold that she's going to do a Vegas residency, which started in December of 2013. So at first she said she loved it. Like, you know, she was happy to be performing again, but she has really low energy, so she starts taking just like over-the-counter energy supplements to perform. But her dad sees it and is like, no, you need to go to rehab. So she has to go to rehab before that. She says during this time, she was only allowed to eat for like the next 2 years. She could only eat chicken and canned vegetables. She would literally beg the chef to like have something else. And the chef was like, I can't, like I can only go off the menu because her dad is in control of everything. She said her family is staying in condos, going to spas, going on vacation. She's starving and miserable, and they're doing all that stuff on her dime. She said her sister literally turned up her nose at her, like would not speak to her, thought she was like dirt under her shoe. She said she did get an allowance of like $2,000 a week, but she still had to get permission to buy things. She said one time she literally tried to take her dancers out for dinner just to like celebrate them, and her card gets declined because she didn't have enough in the allowance. She's Britney freaking Spears. She's performing every night in Vegas. So she also starts teaching at a dance studio to kids, which she does really love this during this time. And like it's probably like the only like happy part during her entire conservatorship. She says in 2014 she did try to take her conservatorship to court, and she tried to bring up the fact that her dad was drinking, but no one ever wants to hear it. And so she starts writing again, and she writes the album Glory, and she's in her 3rd year in Vegas, and she's starting to feel alive again. She really wants to have another baby. I want to say she started dating Sam around this time, but her father refuses to let her get her IUD out because he literally makes all the decisions. And she said at this point, the residency had become boring. She said she literally did the exact same thing every night. There would be weeks between the shows. And so like there was time for them to like change a song out or switch a dance out, but they would not change anything. She was like, we could do remixes, but they wouldn't let her do anything. She says the residency was supposed to end in 2017, but it didn't. And they kept taking her on tour. So she says, I'm forced to go on tour, and she ends up missing vacations with her kids. So every year she's allowed to go on 2 vacations. And in 2017, she was forced to go on tour, so she didn't get it. So like in 2018, she's like, hey, like I really need those vacations this year. That's all I get. They normally like go out to like Malibu on the boat and stuff. And she said they told her that, okay, we're going to go on tour, but that after the tour, you can have the whole summer off. But of course, she goes on tour, comes back, and they're like, oh, you can have 3 weeks. And she's like, what the heck? Like you said I could have the whole summer off. And so literally she talks about how like when they're on tour, like her and her dancers would be locked in rooms. Like they couldn't even get out the room. They had to have like a 2-hour notice to leave where they were at. And this whole time she's thinking like, how am I demented, but I can go and do tours and like do residency shows? Like, how am I so messed up that I need all this security and conservatorship, but I can do all these shows and do all this work? So in October 2018, she's supposed to start doing a Vegas show. So she says, Mario Lopez is the announcer. He announces her. It's all like people have signage. It's like the new, well, it's when the Park MGM was new. And so she says she comes up. She walks out and like literally just keeps on walking. She walks right out the front door into her car and drives off. And so she said that was really like when everything went downhill for her, because she pretty much made it clear that she wasn't going to do any more shows, and so they made her disappear. So that year at Christmas time, her dad takes her boys, which are supposed to be with her, he takes them home to Louisiana and tells her if she wants to see them, she's going to have to come there. So she said at this point in time, the Vegas show hadn't been canceled. She just hadn't been performing, but she was rehearsing for it. And she said that one of her dancers like showed her a move, and she was like, "Oh, that looks too hard." Because I mean, she's like 35 or something at this point. Like she is older. She's like, "I'm older. I've had 2 kids. Like my body's different." And she said like they looked at her real weird and they went and had this like meeting all because she was like, "Oh, that looks hard." So they also find out that she's taking the energy supplements just over the counter again, and they like tell her like, "We think that you're taking worse drugs than this." And so they're like, and they say, "Oh, you're giving everyone a hard time in rehearsal." So at this point in time, they force her to go see a doctor for a mental exam, and the doctor basically says that she's mentally ill, and they send her to a facility. The facility costs her $60,000 a month. So she says that her dad tells her that if she doesn't go to the facility, he'll take her to court and make her look like an idiot, and then she'll be kept away for months. So she goes to this facility. She's isolated at first. She doesn't have a door. She can't take a bath alone. She has to go to bed at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. She has to get up at 8 o'clock. She can't see her kids. They take her off Prozac and put her on lithium. If you don't know what lithium is like a very archaic drug that they only use for bipolar people. I don't know that she's ever been diagnosed with bipolarism. And even for people who have bipolar, that is a very strong medication that has to be very strongly monitored. It has a lot of toxicity risks from it. I'm just throwing my medical knowledge up in here. And Prozac and lithium are not equally equated. So there's that. But okay. But she says the lithium made her feel loopy and lost. So after 2 months of that, she is moved to a building with other patients. Oh, also during this time, they're basically like draining her of her blood every day. Like they're like constantly testing her. What is she possibly doing? You have eyes on her all the time. What is she doing? So she's finally moved to a building with other patients. She did feel like at this point in time, like her whole spirit was broken. Like she just was like, she's nothing at this point. And around this time, a nurse shows her the videos of the Free Britney movement starting. And that did give her a little bit of hope and spirit back. So after all of this goes down, you know, she's kept kind of behind these locked doors for a long period of time. And if you know anything about like the social media stuff, you know, she started posting videos and she talks about it a little bit. But she started being able to like post videos, and that's when people were like speculating all the weird stuff that was going on with Britney. But after a bit of time, her dad kind of snaps on her kids, and he ends up losing visitation with her. He basically breaks down the door because one of her kids had locked himself in his room, and so Kevin filed a restraining order on the dad, and so he loses that. And so around that time is when Britney starts getting on social media, and she said really she got on there because she enjoyed trying on clothes and watching videos. She liked Kevin Hart, like she liked funny videos. And this is around COVID. So during COVID, she's locked down in LA. Her family's in Louisiana, and the laws were different. So like they're in Louisiana, like free. They're like out at the beach. She's on ultimate lockdown in LA. And she wanted to go and see them, but she said she would call them. And every time she would call, they're like, "Oh, we're busy. Oh, we're busy." And she's like, "Why do I even try to talk to you guys? Like, why do I even keep reaching out?" She also couldn't see her boyfriend, which I'm assuming is Sam. I'm really assuming it's Sam now. I didn't put his name down every time. He's not super important. But she couldn't see her boyfriend due to COVID and like the scheduling and quarantine and all of that. And so she basically makes peace with herself at this point in time that she doesn't want to see her family anymore. Like she has basically come to terms with like, those people do not love me. So in June 2021, she decides to call 911 and report her father for abuse. She also learns about Jamie Lynn's book around this time, and we're not going to give Jamie any more time, but she's a pretty terrible sister. And she also has been watching documentaries, and she said it was very hurtful to watch documentaries about herself because so many people that she considered to be her friend went on those documentaries and talked about her, and not necessarily negatively, but it's just the fact that they talked about her and never once were like, "Hey, like they asked me if I wanted to do this documentary, is that okay with you?" And she just really like has no trust in anyone because no one ever like considers her. In June, and later in June 2021, so June 2nd is when she called 911. June 23rd, she finally gets to address the court. And so she finally got to get a new attorney. They told her like that it was definitely illegal for the fact that she could not have like that she didn't have that freedom to choose an attorney. And so she finally gets a new attorney. Her father is first suspended, and then altogether the conservatorship is ended. And so, like, that is basically her breaking out into her freedom. After that, she does make another song. She makes a song with Elton John, and she really admired him, so she was happy to do that. She says that since the conservatorship, she does suffer from migraines now. She says she never really used to have headaches, but it's just probably like the stress and everything. And throughout this whole book, I only mention it here, but throughout the whole book, she always mentions like The Woman in Me, which is the title. But she says she finally now is able to enjoy being an adult woman. I don't think that Britney Spears will ever not have a crazy paparazzi following. I think if anyone sees Britney Spears on the street, they are going to do that. But she says she's finally just like finally able to make her own decisions. Even before the conservatorship, she wasn't making her own decisions, and then the conservatorship happened, and like now she is able to make those decisions. So she does talk about the videos because her videos are a little different. Like she basically is kind of dressing like she always used to, but it's been 20 years. Like she wears like the very low-rise jeans and stuff, and she says that she poses the way that she does because she feels sexy and she likes it, and she doesn't care about her weight or what other people think about her, and I love that for her. So you keep doing that. And around this time, like her and Sam, they do end up getting married. It's like a big thing, kind of secret, and Jason Alexander like crashed her wedding. I did not know his name at the point when that happened in real life, but now that I've read this, I remember like they said her first husband, and it's him. Like he had like run onto the premises during that. It's very strange. But they had got like married, and they've since gotten a divorce. And she also does end up getting pregnant, and she's so excited, and she tells the whole world, but then she ends up losing the baby, miscarrying in the first trimester, and so she has to tell everybody that she was super excited to be pregnant, but she was also very scared of getting postpartum again. And so she does end up losing that. And now we know that they're not together, so there probably aren't, unless she does a surrogate, because she also always could, probably are not any more children in her future. And that's pretty much where she ends her memoir off with. So yeah, that's kind of The Woman in Me in a nutshell. So, what would you rate this book?
I rated it 4 stars.
Yeah, I would give it a 4 too. I think I just feel bad for her. I think she's very naive. I think like she's I don't want to say she's exactly what they present her to be, because I want to say she's exactly as I perceived her to be. She's just even now I think she's still a very naive person, and I think she just always is. I think it's something that she's like she's been bred that way, and that's sad because like she doesn't have like she's never had I wouldn't say that she's never had a friend, but I guess maybe Paris in Madonna and like in their ways of knowing how to be her friend. But it's just like all that time went on and like nobody did anything.
Yeah,
like,
and I think that's what the saddest part. There was nobody
in
her life that was close to her that was on her side for
13 years. For 13 years they had her like, and then like she literally just disappeared off the face. And she did like, and her dad, like, how can you hate your daughter so much? How can you hate your daughter so much? And your mom, like, just all, and your sister, like, how? And her brother was working for her at one point too. Like, even if you, like, her dad actively did stuff to her, but you passively not doing anything is just as bad.
Right. And I mean, yeah, like, her friends before the conservatorship couldn't have been, real friends if, they at any point didn't speak up about
what was going on with her.
Yeah.
And I think like, I mean, Britney is a child star, and obviously we know the trouble of them, like Lindsay Lohan, Macaulay Culkin, like the ones that have passed away. Like we see that, and it is like, and these parents, like I feel like something I hear all the time is like in memoirs, people always write that like, oh, I wanted to do this, but it's like, did you? Like, did you want to do it, or like, what? Like, did you really want to do it to the level that your parents wanted you to do it? And it's just like, it's so sad because these parents, like I think of like Drew Barrymore, like the way like her mom kind of was, like, it's just, it is really sad. Like, and there's nobody in her corner. Even like the stuff with Kevin, I won't say, I mean Justin, I feel like that was kind of like a child love, but like Kevin, like, he was such a loser. Like he had like, sometimes I look at some of the people that these celebrities, I'm like, how are you dating that person? Like you're on a different level. I know you're just human like the rest of us. But like, no, but you're not just human like the rest of us. Like, how are you dating Kevin Federline?
Yeah.
Like, he should never even been allowed, like, what he has been allowed. And like you have just like sat around him and her dad, like you've made all this money off of her. All of this money. Live this life off of her back. And she's never gonna have a good life. She's missed 13 years of her life. Her kids don't like her. I won't say that. I don't know. I don't know how they feel about her. Just from what we see, it doesn't seem like she loves them. I don't know how they feel. And they're kids. They'll grow up and maybe we don't know how they'll turn out. But I just hate that for her. It just sucks. I mean, I don't think that she doesn't have any. I don't say she has fault in it because like she doesn't have any fault in the conservatorship. I think she needed help. I do think that. I definitely think somebody needed to help her. She was but she needed like the correct medical attention. She had she had emotional issues, not substance issues, like she said, and no one was doing that to help her. The conservatorship was not to help her. It was to control her. It was never to get her better. Because I'm like, you guys had her in therapy for 13 years and she wasn't any better. Right. And obviously that like wasn't helping. So, I hate that. I did like it. So, yeah, we gave it a 4 stars.
Yeah.
Oh, Britney.
One point that really sticks out to me was the workshop. You know, she's in charge of children. If she truly, you know, if she had to be on this conservatorship and she's not allowed to have custody of her children, not allowed to, you know, deal with her own finances or even choose what she ate, should she have been in charge of a group of children? Yeah. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
It's so strange. Like, who are the judges sitting on, like, how? You obviously did not care. You did not read anything. Like, you did not care. Because it doesn't make any sense. Like, the math is not math. I don't know. Yeah. I feel bad for her. Yeah. Okay, so the only thing I did, because we talked about this before, I said, so if you could think of anyone to play Britney in her own biopic, who would it be?
So, honestly, I would say, like, latter, like, now, older adult Britney, I would say Britney. Just because, you know, but, you know, more adolescent Britney, I honestly would probably say, like, and I've said this before, I've said this a couple times, but Sabrina Carpenter. I feel like she kind of gives the same, I feel like she could give the Britney energy. Yeah. But
I think Sydney Sweeney would do a good job.
Ooh, you know what? I agree.
I'd hate to, please do not take this wrong way. She plays crazy so good. I'm not saying that Britney's crazy, but I'm just like the whole, like the depression, the people, like all of that whole like meltdown era, like that. I think she would do so good with it.
You're right. Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think Sydney Sweeney would do a good job. I think she would. So, okay.
Yeah. Well, and for Kevin and her dad, I would say Lucifer himself. But
absolutely. And Justin, you're not off the hook either.
Yeah.
Boo. 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 Okay, well, I enjoyed it. Okay, we haven't done a memoir in a while, so that was nice. Yeah. So next week we are doing. We are doing Twisted Games by Anna Huang, and Keely said I'm rereading. Keely has started, and she's like, "Oh, she likes him."
Yes, I do.
This is my favorite of the Twisted series. I love a man named Reese. What can I say? What can I say? So we're doing that next week. And if you are not following us on Instagram or Facebook, you need to be, because I just posted the rest of our books for January and our books for February. So if you want to be reading along, they are listed there. But even if you don't want to be reading along, you need to be following us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok at Booktrospective. And you need to like and share our posts and review and rate our podcast episodes and give us feedback.
Yes.
We need feedback. We need book suggestions. Anything else?
Just drilling in. Follow us.
We're begging. Please.
Yes.
All right. I think that's all I got. Bye.